Mediocre Mitch's Musings. This is my second video, and today I'm going to talk about grief and loss and love, and all of this in the mindset of A, COVID-19, B, Memorial Day weekend is coming up, and C, this is the week of my sister's birthday, and it's going to be the first birthday that we have without her being with us anymore. Now look, I'm not an expert, and I'm not claiming to be an expert as it relates to death and dying and grief and loss, but I do think a lot and I do read a lot. And so I was thinking about a month or two after my sister passed away last year. I was on a bike ride, and I was riding with a guy named Rob, who I'm friends with, and I don't see that often, but I always love seeing him. He is a really positive and interesting guy, and he said, "Hey Mitch, sorry to hear about your sister's passing. I lost my own brother quite a few years ago, and I think about him every day." And I told him how I was thinking about my sister every day, and he said to me, "I bet a lot of people are worried about your parents and your brother-in-law and his kids, your sister's kids, but probably not as many people are asking how you're doing, because you're only the brother." And so it got me a little bit riled up, because I was like, hey, that I kind of feel that way sometimes. And I started questioning, like, who has the priority over grieving? And I started getting annoyed, like, why are my sister's friends and distant relatives mourning and memorializing my sister more publicly and outwardly than I was, or more publicly and outwardly than I thought they should? And I've been giving that concept a lot more thought now, especially as we're in the middle of this pandemic, and we're thinking about Memorial Day and my sister's birthday. And I've been realizing that, first of all, grief isn't limited to death. Grief is the loss of something, and it could be the loss of, in the case of the pandemic, it could be the loss of a way of life, the loss of seeing your friends at work, the loss of being able to do certain things that you used to love to do that you're no longer able to do, or at least temporarily. And the second thing is, grief isn't limited to family members. It isn't limited to close family members. How a person feels grief towards any situation, whether it's the loss of a friend or a loved one, or someone who served in the military, or a way of life, or the loss of a marriage, anything, is deeply personal. And for me to have sat there and questioned how people were grieving my sister, frankly, just isn't fair. And I feel like, being respectful of how people are going through their own losses, whether it's the loss of a life or loss of a way of life, being respectful and thoughtful of how people are dealing with it and allowing them to deal with it their own way, I think is the right thing to do. One of the things that we spoke about on one of the podcasts, I can't remember the number, but it was with Tildette Verone, and she talked about collective grief and how in the pandemic there's a bit of a collective grief going on, that you feel as a person that all of society is grieving a loss or another, loss of a loved one, loss of a way of life, etc. And that sometimes you feel that collective loss, even if you feel like you haven't lost anything personally, you feel like society has lost, and we all feel that in our own way as well. So with all of that crappy stuff going on, and all of this crappy stuff going on this week, at least in terms of sad thinking, I'm taking a minute to think a lot. I'm taking a minute to allow myself to be a little bit sad. I'm praying, but I'm also looking forward. And how can I take these feelings, turn them into something positive, and build on them? Because tomorrow's another day, and next week's another week, and we need to make ourselves as happy, productive, and well as possible, so that we can enjoy the life we do have as much as we possibly can. So with that, this has been Mediocre Mitch, and until next time, be happy, be positive, and be well. Take care.